Hello, welcome to the weekends here. Brackets almost usual business. Theme of the week to team of the week with a question in between on each of the games coming up at the weekend. Buenos dias, Graham.
Buenos dias, muy buenos dias.
This week's theme, the young ones, not Rick and Vivian and Neil, but Joel Rocker, Gian Vergili, Adrian Liso, Pablo Garcia, John Martin. They're all off to the Under-20s World Cup. Mastuano isn't. So first of all, is that an injustice? And secondly, should the tournament be moved to the summer now that so many young players are needed by their clubs?
Well, I wish the tournament were moved to Barcelona because I love it so much. And the fact that it's in Chile and Spain's first game against Morocco is in Santiago means it's less accessible than you and I would like. What were the questions? Is it must one tono? Them's the rules because the way in which this tournament is constructed under FIFA's own laws, and they're unimpeachable in their logic, FIFA, as we might not talk about later on, says that if one of the youth players for your international team, under-20 team, is playing abroad, i.e. not in his country of origin, then it's down to the club. So, for example, Iker Bravo, who's the only player for Spain in Gallardo's squad who's playing abroad at Udinese. Gallardo's been quite clear. We negotiated with Udinese and they say, off you go. The scene for this was set about fairness with Mastantuono, who Xabi Alonso is head over heels with, the Argentinian 18-year-old, somewhere between attacking midfield and second striker, false winger at the moment. You know him well. You know what he's got. I hope those who are tuning into Revista know a little bit about him. And Alonso adores him. And when he was asked, I think now it's fully a month ago, the Under-20 World Cup is coming up, Xabi, Mastantuono, what's going to happen? And Xabi said, well, if it's up to us, which it proves to be, he stays. Crystal clarity. So you're right. Clubs from Racing Santander and Girona and Real Sociedad, a number of clubs have lost players who even at under-20 level are first teamers. And you raised the point that Spain are missing out on a couple of players too.
Well, what you're referring to
Lamine and Dean Howson are qualified to play.
Yeah.
So it cuts both ways. And I think, one, with Mastantuono, them's the rules. Two, moving the timetable is quite sexy. It's traditionally been at this time of the year. It's important, again, honing in on the micro, because the selecciones from around the world, Argentina, 3 of the last 4, will tell their own tale about why it's important. But the first time I paid attention to the Under-20 World Cup was when I'd already seen footballers like Xavi and Gabri and Iker Casillas play at club level. I hadn't seen Marchena, but those 3 plus Marchena went off, won the World Cup in Nigeria in 1999, and 3 of them, Marchena, Casillas and Xavi, eventually 11 years later, replicated the feat in Africa, won the World Cup, the Senior World Cup. I think that it's not a proving ground that guarantees that the footballers who start at Under-20 World Cup are automatically going to become top internationals or even top club players if you go back and look. But it was a breeding ground for people like Zabaleta and Mascherano and Leo Messi, who've gone to World Cups and either performed well or won the thing. And so it's a tournament I really enjoy. Spain have got a tough one, given that their group is very, very difficult indeed. It includes Mexico, Morocco, and Brazil. And I think they'll do well. It's 12 years since they've got there. And if it's brought controversy, then isn't that what we all invented professional football for, I think, by now? No?
Mastuano will be able to play in the Madrid Derby on Saturday because of all this. Is there another candidate for the most impressive, the most impactful summer signing at Real Madrid?
I think Howson, if you count him, because I know he was brought in that dog-end tournament, the FIFA World Cup. And I think of the recent signings, the new signings, Howson's streets ahead of everybody. But streets ahead of Carreras, no, I've been false there. I think Mastantuono is in a group, hothouse group, where One, Xabi Alonso is very clear cut in his mentality. In no way is he timid about look at the size of the job and flipping heck. I've got to manage upwards to Jose Sanchez and Florentino Perez. That's not his nature. You know that. And it's also true. If you listen to Danny Carvajal, he said, look, we had come to the end of an era, end of a cycle. They talk a lot about cycles in football now, don't they? And therefore, change is almost obligatory. So Alonso, I think, is hothousing footballers. And Thiago Pitarch, who's away with Gallardo at the under-21 tournament, was somebody who was featuring a lot in squads for Xabi Alonso. And as such, we might have seen still more new blood. Maston Bono has the great benefit of he's a bull. He presses, he harasses. He's got a lovely right-footed goal from a Vinicius assist in midweek when Madrid won 4-1 in the Ciudad de Valencia. The biggest thing he's got going above and beyond his talent is that Xabi Alonso loves him, tried to sign him from Bayer Leverkusen. There's some recognition factor because as players in decision-making, in background, they don't resemble each other at all. Xavi loves him, and therefore, even though both Carreras and Housen have just shot up the adoration charts for the staff, the fellow players, and the fans, Maston Bono's debut few months, given that he couldn't train or play with the team until he turned 18 in August, whether they adhered to that, I don't know. We're seeing somebody who's going to be projected at Madrid. Raw still, I think, Pete. Raw. Would you accept that?
Well, he's 18, yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you. Well said. As ever, more succinct than me, but fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. Well, the 18-year-old on the other side of the Madrid divide had a good week as well. Julian Alvarez scored his first hat-trick for Atletico Madrid. They're quite optimistic. Well, not optimistic, but they're more optimistic than they were before beating Rayo about going into Saturday's game, Cholo's team. How many Atleti players get into the current Real Madrid side?
Are you serious?
You're allowed to say none of them.
You really want me to hang my arse out the window? Like none. Football is a team sport, so are we saying that it's impossible that Atleti get a draw or a win? I might be saying a win at the Metropolitano if they were better coached. I might be saying that. I'm not going to say that Atleti are going to win. I don't think they do. But if you honestly want me to say that there's a single Atleti footballer who gets in there, there's brilliant. Look at the fucking bench at Real Madrid.
Mm-hmm.
In midweek and last weekend, you looked bench resources and you're like, okay, yeah, potential Ballon d'Or winner. He'd cost 100 million if you sold him. Sitting there was it was like the usual suspects where they do the lineup. And no, not a single Atleti player, no.
The referee Saturday, Graham, is Javier Alberola Rojas, a great last name for a referee, Reds, but he's not red card happy. Is he the best referee in Spain?
I love the way that, there's this brilliant, this Forbes does this brilliant third Murray brother impersonation, and Judy Murray, who's the mother of Andy and Jamie, dives, right? And I'm pretty sure that Alberola Rojas is doing I'm part of Charles and Diana's family. I'm the missing brother.
He has a regal look, yeah.
Without question. And he also entered into one of these reality, pretty bachelor competitions, and reality TV in Spain is never allowed to live it down. Cutting to your chase, I think that he was already impressive before he got ill. He was out for about 18 months. He thought his life was in danger, never mind his career. When he came back, I think he showed the PTSD of that, in that he wasn't running and working hard enough. And I don't think that was because he couldn't. I think he was in that natural human mode of, I'm just going to keep everything within, sort of lines here. I'm not going to paint outside the lines. Then he had a summer and got fit, which was the summer before last summer. And his involvement in the play, his level of decision making, i.e., getting into the right positions all the time, working. He used to control the tee, as they say in squash games, and he was like, I think if I can be here, then I won't have to do the shuttle runs. He's now knocked that out of the park. His positioning is good. His physical work is good. He's always had this double Kalina effect, whereby he's a big, impressive, confident, forthright, forceful guy, which doesn't cover up if you're not a good referee. But when you merge the fact he's talented, athletic, and he imposes on people, I think that although there are one or two candidates to try and muscle him out of the top place in the podium, like you said, for my taste now, he's the best, most authoritative, most reliable, least controversial referee in La Liga.
Will Madrid be 12 points clear of Atleti come Saturday night?
At a 9 as we speak, I think a draw's not out of the question. Cyril is not happy right now at the bottom of everybody's screens that I don't have Alvarez. He says he might get into Real Madrid's squad. I think that's a neatly put point. Julian Alvarez, like you and I pick both, you commentate on him a lot. We have a lot of respect for the fact that he can not like a 10, but he can play between the lines as a second striker. He's happy to drop and leave room for a 9, whoever that may be. But in and around the box, I think that's one of the most prized possessions that's difficult to find in elite football right now. Who snaffles you goals in and around the box? That's what the Spider has genuinely got. Cyril, yeah, squad, Pete asked team. Madrid favourites. Madrid favourites to win and go 12 points ahead. Could I see a draw? Yeah, that's feasible. Yeah.
And back to Cyril's point, the last time Julian Alvarez played against a Xabi Alonso team, he was absolutely sensational. You remember the game last season in the Champions League?
I was at that. I mean, it finished 1-0 thanks to Conor Gallagher goal. And I think you're talking about everything except for the penalty take.
Well,
we didn't use to.
I'm remembering the comeback against Bayer Leverkusen when they go down to 10 men, and you just think, well, they're not going to win this, and he just puts the team on his back.
He's a characterful, atypical Argentinian footballer in that I've met him and talked to and interviewed him, and he's quite he's neither sweet nor is he got that strut that we're going to talk about a little bit later. He's quite a timid and refined fella. Still seems quite young when you talk to him, but on the pitch, drive, aggression, and the last time he played Real Madrid, his was the double tap penalty that you used to only use that phrase with assassins, and FIFA. Well, you and I mixed with them, so there's no point in hiding it. So the double tap when he fell, made double contact with the ball, that ruined the shootout for Atleti, and Madrid won a game during which they'd been second best, and Atleti took their foot off Madrid's throat, and FIFA changed the laws as a result of that. So he's carrying misfortune. Atleti are carrying Pupa misfortune into this game. I don't honestly outright see Atleti winning. Madrid are beginning to look ruthless and hitting ramming speed.
Time for the intermission, Graham. Why aren't they singing this? Who have we done so far? Carly Simon, The Mouldy Peaches, Madonna, and Fine Young Cannibals. This week it's Max Bygraves and his 1958 hit, You Need Hands, which obviously is perfect for Barca fans at Montjuic. You Need Handsy. This was the B-side to Chulich from Amsterdam. It was on Decca Records. It won the Ivor Novello award, which is sort of like the Ballon d'Or for songwriters. So this is for you, Mr. Flick. You need handsy to show the world you're happy. You need handsy when you have to stop the bus. Slightly strange second line to that lyric. Presumably that's for Rashford and Rafinha when they're late. Max goes on, but the handsy we love so dear, but the handsy we love so dear is the handsy we love to hear, is the handsy Laporta bought for us. And if kids, you're not into 1920s born crooners, the Sex Pistols did a copy, did a cover.
But there's
in
no
1979, Malcolm McLaren on lead vocals.
But there's no kids out there that haven't heard I'm a blue toothbrush, you're a pink toothbrush. There's absolutely nobody out there who hasn't heard at one stage in their life or other Max saying, I want to tell you a story.
Well,
And
he
when
was
you
just great.
think nobody even loves you, you need hands to brush away a tiny tear. It's a beautiful reference. If anybody didn't get the Deco Deca thing, go look it up. Salute you. You're seeing Pete's playlist, which does have a lot of Max Bygraves on it, and justifiably too.
Mm-hmm. Hansi takes his team into Sunday's game against Real Sociedad, obviously off the back of last night's remontada, second of the season. What impressed you most about the fact that they came back last night?
Yeah, it was very nearly Hansi Easy Bumps the Daisy up at Oviedo, who for big chunks of the match didn't just lead but outcompeted Barcelona. They looked, for the fourth time, I would say, they looked sloppy, sluggish, lackadaisical, as they did for two-thirds of the Mallorca game, for half of the Levante game, for all of the Rayo game. It looked like they'd found a cure because of the game against Valencia, which couldn't be taken into account because it was a hot knife through, particularly, curdled butter. They were very good throughout against Newcastle and did well against the Getafe, who I thought psychologically hauled up a white flag. And Oviedo went, right, we'll go for the chin. And they did that, Oviedo, in the second half against Madrid, and tired. And that's when the game was taken away from them. But in the second half against Madrid, they showed that as an attacking force, they're quite daring and quite fun. And I thought they showed that at the Tartiere last night. What impressed me most, I think, was Flick's judgment of what was happening and what was needed. The introduction of Koundé, De Jong's assist for the first goal. Lewandowski, again, I run the risk of sounding like a talking sour grapefruit because very, very, very good header. Really good goal. And then, wandering about and not adding very much, which is him in a nutshell. But with that and Araujo's late header, 3-1 and 3 points, shows determination and shows spirit and clever management of resources by Flick. But with the exception of the Newcastle game, they're playing poorly. They're playing poorly.
Mm-hmm. Playing poorly and winning, so that'll be a reason for optimism, I suppose. But
No, my diagnosis is playing badly and winning. Problems coming down the line. That's
okay.
Coaches say what you said, but to my mind, they have serious, systematic attitude, athleticism problems to solve, and quickly, because interesting game, La Real this weekend, Paris Saint-Germain right around the corner.
I commentated Real Sociedad in midweek. They were their usual selves. They had about 25 chances and scored once. It was Oyarzabal that got the goal. Does Oyarzabal feel sometimes like the dog at Battersea Dogs Home that doesn't get picked out when the kids are coming around to pick out their rescue dogs? He's the last survivor, isn't he, of the great team that they had?
Do you know, you're painting a picture whereby it's Bigfoot Oyarzabal looking at the buyers and saying, why don't you want me? My version of it is he's looking at the other players and saying, gee, thanks, lads. He's turned down approaches, often including athletic, and until recently, so had Subimendi. I know from a manager who tried to buy him that Subimendi said, I'm sick and tired of having to do three men's work. And therefore, when he left the club, he loves even more than Oyarzabal, because Oyarzabal's first love is Eibar, no question about that. But he's grown to love everything about La Real. He's their captain. He's symbolic. He's a fighter. It's done him no harm for his international career, either in terms of pickability for De La Fuente or goals. His goal record recently for Spain is absolutely fantastic. Would he be looking upwards and inwards, particularly at the president? I think the answer is yes, but I don't think he's wanted to leave and has been left behind. Is my perception. And boy, the fans love him, Pete, so much.
Mm-hmm. The games kick off tonight, Graham. It's Girona against Espanyol. We've talked about Madrid being 12 clear of Atleti potentially. Espanyol could be 12 clear of Girona. Is that going to happen tonight?
By the time people see this, that result will probably be over. So let's say Girona much more organised at Sant Mamés, Espanyol full of punch. They're 2-2 draw in the midweek. Manolo said best performance that we've shown. That was Valencia, right? The best performance of the season. Espanyol favourites, probably perfectly feasible. It's a draw.
Getafe Levante, should the Fenway group by Getafe? It seems they're getting closer.
I don't see why not. I think that the initial evidence of Velocity, who are similar in idea and structure and composition, Velocity Group buying in at Espanyol, that's worked very well indeed. There are obvious things to say about you've got a spiky guy and Angel Torres as your president if Liverpool's ownership group buys in, but you're buying into the city of Madrid. Um, it, its location and the composition of the stand are things that if you want to take a club and really expand it, those are things that will be difficult for them. But the story by a mutual friend of ours, Don King, in the Mail, which broke this tale, I am willing to stake everything is well sourced. It looks like they're on the point of making it happen. Business deals are even more difficult than transfer market estimates. So fingers crossed for the benefit and the health of Getafe that it does happen. Fenway's been very good for Liverpool. It always worries people who love clubs in domestic leagues when foreign investment comes in, because it does bring the threat of lack of involvement and is it a toy? Fenway have shown that's not what they're like. Speaking on a personal point of view, I think it's potentially quite exciting.
Mallorca Alaves, Mallorca 2 points from a possible 18. Is Arrasate going to be the first coach sacked? You wouldn't have had that at the start of the season, would you, as your tip?
I know your point of view on this, and that the evidence of your eyes suggests to you that the players have kind of sided with their defenestrated captain, Danny Rodriguez, who I think committed extraordinary sins. And the turning point for Arrasate was when he did a press conference they fined him, they kicked him out of training, they took the captaincy away, and then Arrasate went, I'll probably never trust him. I think that's the point at which footballers are like, hold on, all of us have fucked up. The biggest footballers in the world have fucked up and been trusted again. Danny Rodriguez was well established at the club. It was really important, I think, for the squad to see that the manager could be the bigger man. And as such, I think Arrasate committed a sin which has cost him, even if it's subconscious, not the team downing tools, subconsciously he's done damage there. And it's so unfair because the original sinner was undoubtedly not Adam, but Danny. And therefore, I have sympathy for Arrasate. But is he in jeopardy? Yes, because when you're the people that run the club, you can't sack the squad. He needs to find a way to be a bit Boutros Arrasate, and quickly.
He's also been brought in to change the style, which is the other thing is they're playing terribly as well as not winning games. Villarreal against Athletic, trying to get serious here, Graham. UEFA are edging towards suspending Israeli teams, according to Associated Press yesterday. I think there's a meeting next week. Villarreal signed an Israeli winger in the summer. He's made one and scored one, two very good substitute appearances. This is Mana Solomon, who's on loan from Spurs. In the past, he's posted things pro Israel in terms of what they're doing in Gaza. He changed his tune in his press conference when he was presented. He was asked to comment, and he said, "I'm here to play football, not to talk about politics." On that basis, and if he sticks to that, then should he be left alone and not receive the sort of abuse he received against Sevilla in the week?
No. It's crystal clear that you could support Israel. I support Israel. I support all the Israelis who took grave danger into their own lives by demonstrating in their own country against what Netanyahu and the IDF are doing. We have to be really judicious in our choice of words. I oppose the genocide. Personally, that's my opinion. I oppose the genocide. I oppose everything that Netanyahu has ever stood for. And Solomon talked with praise about the work of the IDF. There's a genocide going on. You must take responsibility for what you say in public. So if that catalyzes reactions from people in a country whereby the Vuelta a España, their Tour de France of Spain, was consistently disrupted as a protest against the Israeli team that was cycling. he needs to understand that those are the responsibilities that rest on his shoulders, having said what he said. You're allowed to believe what you believe, Mr. Solomon, but there are repercussions, and there are repercussions, insufficient repercussions, for the genocide that the Israeli government and defense forces have imposed on Gaza. And as such, we don't know formally that UEFA are going to make a decision next week, but it comes at a time when the European Broadcasting Union have cast it out to their and the CEOs of each member state in that union about whether Israel should be banned from the Eurovision Song Contest. And in my perspective, I grew up in an era where one of the first things, apart from my dad telling me about the shameful, the sad loss of Barry Richards, one of the most daring and beautiful opening batsmen ever, our family wouldn't touch anything from South Africa during the apartheid regime. We grew up in an era where it was a very common phrase in Britain that nothing from South Africa should be promoted or allowed or bought or indulged in until apartheid was ended. And lo and behold, apartheid was ended. And we have a troubled but nonetheless democratic state in South Africa right now. And I have absolutely no question that the world has ignored the genocide, has not done the right thing. I don't deliberately mean to antagonize people, but I don't have any sympathy for people who disagree with that message. And as such, I fervently hope that UEFA, even though that idiot president in America has put pressure on FIFA openly, verbally, that Israel shouldn't be denied the chance to access the World Cup in America, according to Trump. It's also in Mexico and Canada. And for my taste, I'd like the governing body of Europe to do something that they did towards Russia, and I think which would find favour in the majority of honest, right-minded, democratic, liberty-loving people, that as a punishment to what their state is doing, sorry for the footballers, Israel should be excluded from club and international competitions by UEFA and then by FIFA.
Second all that. 4 games left. Rayo against Sevilla. And Monchi's back, sort of. He's no longer at Villa. Where's he gone? He's now the president of Deportivo San Fernando, which of course is where it all started for him. He's a Cadiz man. He said that he will be the president of Sevilla if the third way gets the sort of vote. It's Fede Quintero and Antonio Lappi who are sort of leading we don't want Del Nido Jr., we don't want Del Nido Senior. Is that exciting news for Sevilla?
We used to have a clear GPS on Ramon Rodriguez Monchi before, and during his glory years when he did his network, his system did extraordinary things for Sevilla. We had access to him, to talk to him, to listen to him, giving masterclasses in how to scout, how to sign. And yet his time at Roma, much of his return to Sevilla, and now his time at Aston Villa, those 3 episodes have been out with the early success, out with the dominating work he did, which left him being amongst the most impressive transfer market organisers of your or my career. So I don't going to win, but Sevilla as a club is massively divided by schisms of, it's such a Dallas soap opera. And I would only say that I'm unsure whether Monchi has maybe lost some of his drive and his spark, and that has left him looking mortal. But if he could bring peace and unity and then drive and purpose in the right direction for Sevilla, then that would be welcome. The simple answer, but should it be Monchi back at Sevilla, is too complicated for me to give a yes or a no, Pete. I don't know if you think that too.
Sevilla is Dallas, so there's no doubt about who J.R. Ewing is, isn't there? Is there? Good morning, Del Nido Senior.
Who shot him? It was the Poison Dwarf. It was Charlene Tilton. So it's God almighty spoiler. 50-year-old spoiler. She was sorry, Charlene. Sorry, God.
Betis against Osasuna. Are we back in a winger's wonderland in Spanish football at the moment, Graham?
Are you counting Victor Munoz?
Absolutely.
He in your list?
Scored in midweek.
What to call? We called it. Abde, is back in the team. Didn't do particularly well against Nottingham Forest. Anthony did half fit, but kept on running and flopping and roaring and tricking and nutmegging and then scored. Yes, in general, in Spain, we are. One of the crackers I like, Joel Roca, has gone off to that under-20 tournament in Chile with Gallardo, his coach. Speaking of wingers, for the benefit of La Liga, I'm really sorry, Lucho. Do love Luis Enrique Martinez, but for the benefit of La Liga, where they cover themselves in glory, La Liga clubs totally in European competition over the last couple of weeks. The prize winner of them all in this golden era, Lamine Yamal. Come on back, baby. We love watching you. It's about time. Never mind who you play for. Just bring us back some. They're the entertainers, the wingers, and we see them just about everywhere in La Liga. Usually new styley, coming inwards, right? Coming
Yeah.
inwards. And will there ever be a time for those who go outside like Abde does?
Well, Jan Virgili, he doesn't mind going on the outside. The young.
Yeah, we'll keep his private life off the air. But he's this mad guy who can play right wing, left wing, back, left wing. And he's not as ambidextrous, two-footed as, say, Dembele, but Jean Virgili is a sexy young critter in terms of what he wants to do with the ball. Very, very exciting, and would not have been sold to Mallorca from Barcelona had it not been for their need to sell homebred players to change their financial fair play profile to La Liga, and that's much to Mallorca's benefit.
Last game is Monday, Graham, Valencia, Oviedo. Is there an out-of-contract striker that Oviedo can score? Because, boy, do they need one.
If Patrick Bamford was widely linked to Getafe and then Bordalas, and it doesn't actually mean it's factual, went, rumours. Oh, rumour you not. And that's directly how Bordalas speaks. So I can only say maybe Patrick Bamford, unless you've got one up your sleeve.
Well, someone mentioned to me the other day Diego Costa. I don't know what Diego Costa's doing now, but
Ooh, la, la.
there was an Oviedo fan in the room, and we all know who that was. We can all guess who that was, and he didn't mind the idea at all of Diego Costa.
Stidlov. They didn't win, and Rondon is slow. As a playing outfit, to my taste, they haven't looked all that bad this season. Significantly better this season than how Mallorca and Girona are playing.
Graham's team of the week this week reflects the fact that Mastuano became the second youngest scorer for Real Madrid this century, and Julian Alvarez got his first hat-trick. So your team of Argentinians, Graham, and not necessarily the best, but just your favourites.
And Argentinians? I didn't get that memo. I've gone for my favourite 11 nicknames. So I've got the flea, the tractor, the little boss, the mouse, the wild beast, the python, the little clown, or the goat jockey, Topo the bullfighter. My family is a cartoon, Little Valdano, and the Polaco, because, of course, I was given enough time to prepare my 11 Argentinians. And so, therefore, in goal, just let me check that. I've got that right. In goal is Lionel Messi. Mm-hmm. The reason for that is that in training, he would regularly take the gloves. There's a brilliant picture, which I hope is on your screen right now, from 2012, of him diving full length. And in making the film Take the Ball, Pass the Ball, we went out to interview Xavi, then in Qatar. And I said to him, why did you cross the ball to the smallest player in the field in Rome in the Champions League final against Manchester United? And I said, just like that, almost accusatory. And he went, because he's the absolute best on the team at everything. Tackling, running, shooting, scoring, heading, dribbling. And I said, yeah, but not in goals. And Xavi went, we haven't tried him there yet. So that'll do for me. And he's the flea. The tractor, Zanetti is somebody I've met and interviewed like Messi, and at whatever flipping age he is, late 40s, early 50s, he still looks like either a male model star of one of those Fellini or Bertolucci films in the 60s and 70s from the best of Italian cinema. He was a wonderful footballer, and he was nicknamed the Tractor. because he ploughed up and down the line. That was wrong. The little boss, the jefecito, is Javier Mascherano, who, in one of the interviews I did with him, which was in the build-up to the Wembley final against Manchester United of 2011 in the Champions League, went into a rant. It was on a Sunday morning when Gerard Piqué was too drunk, them just having won the league, to attend our interview, and Mascherano came instead and went, well, at Wembley, this is a chance for us to regain our pride, because everybody knows that when Rattan was sent off against Alf Ramsey's England in 1966, it was a fix. And I was like, that was 150 years before you were born. So the passion you have to like. El Raton Ayala is one of those, the only one of these that I haven't met. Such a good footballer. He's about 2'2". And I remember from the big interview, try and find it, folks, John Hartson lining up in the tunnel for Celtic at Mestalla against Valencia, looking and go, that's Ayala. Look, he's a midget. I'm absolutely going to ruin his night. John says he didn't win a jump all night. Ayala absolutely smashed him, out jumped him, and John never got a sniff. That was the mouse, Ayala. Maxi, the wild beast, Rodriguez, I put in because in his presentation for Espanyol up at Montjuic, I was very new in the city, didn't have a bike, I've never driven, didn't know how to get didn't have enough Spanish to phone a taxi. And I was kind of looking morose. And I'd interviewed him just briefly about his presentation for Espanyol. And he said, everything all right? I said, well, but stuck up here. He said, good radio. So wild beast he might have become, but Ozzy Ardiles, the Python. Ozzy Ardiles is my favourite in this list, certainly on personal knowledge. A man whose political beliefs led him to the streets to protest against the right-wing junta in Argentina. But he was at the same time a law student, full-time law student, a professional footballer, and he'd been given military service in the Argentinian RAF. And those three duties, when he's 17, 18, kept him away from the demonstrations sufficiently that he wasn't one of those who disappeared. And he talked to me about friends who just simply disappeared having protested. And given what we were talking about earlier in the situation, with Israel and how football should treat it, the fact that we don't disappear when we protest should be celebrated. And Ozzy's the only person in the world I've ever met who swears more than me. Pablo Aimar, I was interviewing him post-game at Valencia in the Champions League. Thanks very much, said, see you later. Finished my duties, and about 35, 40 minutes later, walking around Mestalla in the pitch darkness to get to my hotel. There's a couple walking by, and there's a fella in one of those mad stovepipe basketball hats and a pregnant woman, and he's got on one of those daft basketball shirts and long shorts, and it's Aymar. His wife is very pregnant. They've gone out to walk around because she can't sleep and it's too hot in the house. And he goes, "Oh, it's you." He stops me and goes, "Looking in the flash zone there, on the mix zone there. Is that him from?" He's been chatting for 20 minutes while his pregnant wife stood by thinking, hold on. I think I should be the person. I was like, listen, Pablito, it's time you. Anyway, see you later. So I like people like that. Riquelme is in the midfield with Rodriguez Ardiles and Aymar. He was called Topo Gigio because of his resemblance to a cartoon mouse, or the bullfighter. Interviewed him once. Generous, not as hard as his facial expressions might lead you to believe, and an utterly gorgeous footballer, like everybody in this so far. Because Emi Martinez didn't get in goals and playing him up front, he was given the shit out of central defenders. He's called Dibu Martinez because he looked like one of the characters from My Family is a Cartoon, a TV series in Argentina. Mi familia es un dibujo, so he's Dibu. Emi Martinez, interviewed him, talked about being so poor that they couldn't afford doors in their house, so none of the rooms. I said, toilet, even the toilet, we didn't have doors. We didn't have the money for doors. We didn't have money for doors. Maybe that explains a little bit about his nature now, where he's all in, win, win, win. Hernan Crespo is in there. I simply like the fact that when I went to interview him at Genoa, not Genoa, as the commentator I was listening to last night was consistently referring to the Italian city.
Oh,
It's not Genoa. And Terry Gibson, I'm going to phone you. It's not Araujo. It's my angry face. But when I went to interview him at Genoa, I didn't know it was Genoa Football and Athletic Cricket Club. And in Genoa's reception where I met Crispo, there was a battered old red test cricket ball. And I thought, this will do for me. He was nicknamed Little Valdano or the El Polaco, the Polishman, because his grandfather was Polish. And Di Maria, the guy who you told me, Paul Clement, had persuaded Carlo Ancelotti to use in midfield rather than up front because he needed to be in the team, but he couldn't fit in if nature said you had to play, and also the president said you had to play Benzema and Cristiano Ronaldo and Bale in a front three. Then Di Maria was reinvented as a midfielder in that beautiful team, won the Champions League under Carlo Ancelotti and Paul Clement. And I interviewed him and he talked about being driven around his native city, which I think is Rosario, by his mum. And she was a cleaner and she was so poor that she couldn't afford him to look after him. She had a little red bike and she put a basket on the front and he would sit and be driven through the city of Rosario in all weathers by his mum. And he is known as El Fideo, which I think translates to maybe like a piece of
the noodle,
spaghetti pasta, or
yeah,
a noodle. But it's. And he said, "Listen,
it's a long street goal, yeah." But
in a recent interview, Isaac Kronak said, "Yeah, but I used to be really skinny." You know, still like that. So there, Pedro.
Who was the fourth midfielder, Graham, with Ardiles, Aymar and Riquelme?
Maxi, the wild beast Rodriguez.
Maxi Rodriguez. Okay, so we got Leo Messi in goal. Nothing off of that,
obviously.
Zanetti, Mascherano, and Ayala at the back. Maxi, Ardiles, Aymar, and Riquelme in midfield, and then Emil Martinez, Crespo, and Di Maria up front. Graham's 11. So, rumour ye not, you've done it again, Graham. From theme of the week to team of the week, answering a question on each of the games coming up at the weekend. All that remains to be said is adios, amigos.
To team ye not. Stay tuned.